I was standing in my childhood bedroom when my sister said it. Casual, like she was ordering coffee. By the way, I'm being named beneficiary of the business. Mom signed the papers this morning. She didn't even look up from her phone. I felt my pulse go still, the kind of quiet that happens right before something inside you breaks. Because for 6 years, I'd been the one keeping that business alive. And she knew it. Stick around, because 3 weeks later, nothing about her perfect little takeover looked the same. I grew up in a house that smelled like lavender and disappointment. My mother, Diane Hartley, owned a small but beloved floral design studio in Charleston, Hartley and Bloom. To the outside world, she was an artist. Elegant, soft-spoken, always dressed in linen with her hair pinned just so. Inside our home, she was something else entirely, a woman who kept score in silence and paid it back in cold distance. My sister, Claire, 4 years younger than me, learned early how to read her moods. She knew when to laugh, when to agree, when to disappear. I never did. I asked too many questions. I wanted explanations when Mom's version of events didn't match reality. I challenged her when she rewrote history to make herself the hero. By the time I was 12, I understood. Claire was the easy one. The one who made Mom feel like a good mother without requiring any actual work. I was the difficult one, the one who reminded her of all the things she didn't want to face. So Claire got dance lessons, summer camps, college application help. I got, "You're independent. You'll be fine." Independence wasn't a gift. It was abandonment dressed up as a compliment. When I turned 16, I started working at the flower shop after school. I swept floors, restocked supplies, learned to arrange centerpieces under the fluorescent lights while my mother sat in the back office, sipping wine and scrolling through design boards. She never asked me to work there, but she also never told me not to. And when I stayed late to finish orders she'd promised clients, she didn't thank me. She just expected it. By 18, I was running deliveries, managing inventory, and covering her mistakes when she double-booked weddings or forgot to order roses for Valentine's Day. She'd smile at customers and say, "My daughter's a lifesaver," but at home, she barely looked at me. Claire, meanwhile, went to college 2 hours away. She called once a month, posted photos of brunches and beach trips, and came home only for holidays when she wanted something. After graduation, I didn't leave. I told myself it was because I loved the work. But really, I stayed because some part of me still believed that if I worked hard enough, if I proved myself useful enough, my mother might finally see me. The business started struggling when I was 23. My mother made poor investments, expanded too fast, hired too many part-timers, leased a second storefront that never brought in enough revenue. She didn't tell me the shop was drowning until I found past due invoices shoved into a drawer beneath the register. I sat her down one evening, spreadsheets printed and highlighted. "Mom, we need to talk about this." She waved me off. "It's a rough season. It'll even out." "It won't," I said. "Not unless we restructure. Cut costs. Renegotiate with suppliers." She sighed like I was exhausting her. "You worry too much, Natalie." But I didn't stop worrying. I started pouring my own money into the shop, small amounts at first, then larger ones. I renegotiated contracts, streamlined operations, took over the books entirely. I worked 16-hour days, slept 4 hours a night, and gave up any semblance of a personal life. Within 2 years, the business was stable again. Profitable, even. My mother never acknowledged what I'd done. She just started taking credit for the turnaround at networking events, telling people she'd tighten things up. And Claire, she came home for Christmas that year, looked around the shop, and said, "Wow, Mom, you really brought this place back to life." I said nothing. What was the point? 3 years ago, Claire moved back to Charleston. She said she wanted to reconnect with family, but what she really wanted was proximity to the life I'd built without her. She started coming into the shop a few times a week, never to work, just to chat with clients, post Instagram stories with captions like, "Family business vibe sparkles," and position herself as part of something she'd never contributed to. My mother loved it. Suddenly, she had both daughters around. Suddenly, she could play the role of matriarch with an audience. Claire had a way of making herself indispensable without actually doing anything. She'd suggest color palettes for weddings that I'd already planned, offer to help with social media by reposting photos I took, and compliment Mom's creative vision that I'd been executing for years. And my mother ate it up. She started introducing Claire to vendors as my other daughter, the one with the marketing mind. As if I hadn't been managing our entire digital presence for half a decade. I watched it happen in real time, the way my mother's eyes softened when Claire walked into a room. The way she laughed at Claire's jokes, asked about her day, complimented her outfits. The kind of warmth I'd spent my whole life working for and never received. Still, I told myself it didn't matter. I wasn't doing this for recognition. I was doing it because I loved the work, because the business was mine in every way that mattered, even if the paperwork said otherwise. But then came the conversation that shattered everything. It was a Tuesday afternoon. I'd just finished a massive wedding order, 200 centerpieces, hand-tied bouquets, ceremony arch florals. My hands ached. My back ached. I was sitting on the floor of my childhood bedroom, surrounded by ribbon scraps, when Claire walked in. She leaned against the doorframe, scrolling through her phone. "So, Mom and I had lunch today." I barely looked up. "That's nice." We talked about the future of the business. Something in her tone made me pause. She finally glanced at me, her expression unreadable. She's updating the beneficiary paperwork, making sure everything's in order for when she retires. My chest tightened. "Okay." Claire smiled, small, controlled. "She's naming me as primary beneficiary." The words hit like cold water. I blinked. "What?" "She thinks it makes sense," Claire continued, her voice so calm it felt rehearsed. "I have a marketing background. I'm more visible. And you know how she is. She wants someone who can carry the brand forward. Someone people connect with." I stood up slowly, ribbon falling from my lap. "Claire, I've been running this business for 6 years." "I know." She said it like she was humoring me. "And you've done a great job keeping things operational. But Mom wants someone who can grow it. Someone with vision. Vision. As if I hadn't been the one designing every major event for the past 3 years. As if I hadn't saved the business from collapse. As if my entire adult life hadn't been poured into those walls. She signed the papers this morning," Claire added, almost as an afterthought. I felt something inside me crack. Not loudly. Just a quiet, irreversible split. "You knew," I said softly. "You knew what I've done for this place." Claire shrugged. "Mom made her choice. It's not personal, Nat. But it was. It always had been." That night, I sat at my kitchen table, staring at my laptop screen. I didn't cry. I didn't rage. I just calculated. I opened the shared business drive and started downloading files. Every contract. Every vendor agreement. Every invoice, receipt, and email chain. I copied 6 years of work onto an external hard drive, methodically, silently. Then I opened my banking app and reviewed every transfer I'd made to the business account. Thousands of dollars. Tens of thousands, actually. Money I'd funneled in during the worst months. Money that kept the lights on when my mother's poor decisions nearly buried us. I'd never asked to be paid back. I told myself it was an investment in something I loved. But now it was leverage. The next morning, I called an attorney. Her name was Margot Chen, a sharp-eyed woman in her 50s who specialized in small business disputes. I brought the hard drive, the bank statements, and a timeline I'd written out in meticulous detail. She listened without interrupting. When I finished, she leaned back in her chair. "Natalie, you have a very strong case for financial recovery. Possibly even a claim to partial ownership, depending on how the business is structured." My throat felt tight. "I don't want to destroy the business." "Then don't," she said. "But you can protect yourself. And you can make sure your mother and sister understand exactly what you've contributed." She explained the process. A formal demand letter, a review of the business structure, documentation of my financial contributions and operational role. If my mother refused to negotiate, we could escalate. "It won't be fast," Margot warned. "But it will be fair." I signed the retainer agreement that afternoon. 1 week later, my mother received the letter. I wasn't there when she opened it, but Claire called me within the hour. "What the hell is this?" she hissed. I kept my voice even. "It's exactly what it says. A formal request for repayment and recognition of my role in the business." "You can't be serious." "I'm completely serious." There was a pause. Then, "You're going to ruin everything." "No, I said quietly. I'm going to stop pretending I don't exist. I hung up. 2 weeks later, Margot filed a formal business review. The paperwork was clean, legal, undeniable. It requested an audit of the business finances, a review of my mother's beneficiary decision, and documentation of my financial contributions. The fallout was immediate. My mother called me, her voice shaking. "How could you do this to me?" "I didn't do anything to you," I replied. "I asked to be acknowledged for what I've done. You're tearing this family apart." "No, Mom. You did that when you erased me." She hung up. Claire sent a series of texts accusing me of jealousy, manipulation, betrayal. I blocked her number. 3 weeks after I filed, my mother hosted a spring showcase at the shop, a big event she'd been planning for months. Local vendors, potential clients, press coverage. Claire had been handling the marketing, which mostly meant posting event details and tagging influencers. What they didn't know was that I'd quietly reached out to several of our biggest vendors. I didn't badmouth my mother. I didn't have to. I just told them the truth, that I was the one who'd been managing their contracts, their orders, their logistics. That I was the one who knew their preferences, their timelines, their needs. And I told them I was starting my own studio. On the day of the showcase, 3 of our top vendors didn't show. 2 others sent polite emails citing scheduling conflicts. One simply wrote, "We'll be working with Natalie moving forward." The event was half empty. The press coverage was lukewarm. And my mother, standing in the middle of her own shop, finally realized she had no idea how anything actually worked. The confrontation came a week later. My mother showed up at my apartment unannounced. Claire was with her. I opened the door but didn't invite them in. "We need to talk," my mother said. "Then talk." Her jaw tightened. "You're sabotaging the business." "I'm protecting my work," I corrected. Claire stepped forward. "You're being petty. You're punishing us because you didn't get what you wanted." I looked at her, really looked at her. And for the first time, I felt nothing. No anger. No hurt. Just clarity. "I didn't get what I earned," I said. "There's a difference." My mother's voice cracked. "I gave you opportunities. I let you work at the shop. You let me save it," I replied. "And then you gave it to someone who did nothing." For a long moment, no one spoke. Then my mother said, quietly, "What do you want?" "I want repayment for every dollar I put into that business. I want my name acknowledged in the operating documents. And I want an apology." She flinched. "Natalie!" "That's what I want," I repeated. "Or we go to court." In the end, she settled. The repayment plan took 6 months, but I got every cent back. My name was added to the business records as a founding operational partner, and I received a written acknowledgement of my contributions, signed, dated, notarized. I never got the apology, but I didn't need it anymore. I opened my own studio 4 months later. Hartley and Bloom still exists, but it's smaller now. Quieter. My mother runs it with Claire, who's learning the hard way that Instagram posts don't replace actual work. I don't speak to them. I don't need to. I built something that's mine, completely, undeniably mine. And for the first time in my life, I'm not waiting to be seen. If you've ever been erased by the people who should have protected you, I see you. Drop your story in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe, because you deserve to take up space, too.